The Cellcast is recorded in front of a live streaming audience.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Cellcast,
the animated series.
Joining me today is a man who's just feeling green with the envy. Welcome, Jacob.
Roar! Jacob Smash! Wait a minute, wrong show, right?
Yeah, wrong show.
Oh, okay, fine. Apparently it's some alien or something like that, right?
Orions, yes.
Okay.
Or Orions.
Whatever. Continue.
I would.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Why, thank you. Apparently, I'm the host who forgets where to do lines and everything because we do this every week. I'm not bad as some people I know that forgets that they haven't done it in months. Anyways, why, thank you. Let me introduce our co-host, a man who is just missing his best buddy in air quotes. Welcome, Drew.
She'll be back eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Maybe.
Maybe the end of this episode.
Possibly. Like I didn't see this coming.
Right.
Yeah, today we are reviewing the episode Shades of Green, being the second episode of Season 5, which was directed by Bob Suarez and written by Keith Fogelsong. That's an interesting name. Fogelsong. Introduced in this episode, or returning in this episode for the season, Fred Tatasciore, who normally plays Shax, in this episode is also playing Kelevin, and Bert Tindy. I think Bert was Tindy's dad. John Barinholtz is Grom. Vanessa Harshall as Shona Tindy. Oscar Matoya as Mackler. And Deborah Wilson as Sabor. Which I thought was the name of the tiger or the cheetah in Tarzan that killed Tarzan's parents. But anyway.
Yes.
In this episode, Tindy races to stop a conflict while Boimler and Mariner race to stop capitalists. I have opinions on this episode. We'll get to it in a minute.
A little bit.
Trivia for this one, starting in this episode, Boimler, inspired by his quantum counterpart from the last episode, begins growing the beard he will have for the remainder of the season.
Ah. Trying to pull that Riker thing, isn't he?
Yes. Boimler's Bointers is a reference to Robin's Laws, a group of rules created by Ensign Robin Leffler to help her get through situations. That was, which episode was this she was on? So in the Next Generation episode, what is this? The Game, which is one of the Wesley Crusher episodes where Wesley Crusher saves the Enterprise from a very addicting cell phone game before cell phone games existed. Played by Ashley Judd.
Oh, okay. I was like, that face looks really familiar.
Yeah. But she had a set of laws that she called Robin's Laws to help her get through different situations. Boimler telling Mariner that they can do everything right and still get the away team captured is a play on what Jean-Luc Picard told Data in the Next Generation episode Peak Performance, where he said that you can still do everything right and still lose, and that is not a weakness. That is just the truth. In the last bit of this episode, you can actually see Goodgie, aka the good version of Badgie, helping to disassemble the reassembled shuttlecraft.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And we once again get a return of the Azure House, aka the Blue Orions, who originally were created for the animated series episode Pirates of Orion, or Pirates of Orion, because they call themselves Orions for some reason.
To distinguish themselves.
Same is true in the animated series. And what makes them different from most Orion houses in the Syndicate is that they are patriarchal while the rest of them are matriarchal. Because for those of you who don't know, Orion's slave girls were not the slaves. They were the masters. It was the men who were the slaves. Just putting that out there. Except for apparently the couple of Orions who apparently female Orions who can't produce the pheromones. But that's beside the point.
That is weird.
It's an excuse to bring in Orions when technically they probably shouldn't have in previous episodes of the franchise. In fact, before you came over here tonight, I was watching a Next Generation episode called The Offspring, which is one where Data pretty much has a daughter. I'm not going to get into how all that happened.
Right.
But she gets to pick what her outward appearance looks like, and one of her choices is a female Orion. And in that episode, you know what what the female Orion looked like?
What?
Do you remember in the old cartoon, The Flintstones, Gadzooks? Or
Yes.
Gazoo, the Great Gazoo?
Mm-hmm. Look like that?
Look like that.
Wow.
It's like, Next Generation guys, when TOS does it better, you have a problem. But yeah, we do get some solar sailing in this episode, which we previously have only ever seen on Deep Space Nine, as the Bajorans had solar sailing vessels, and on an episode of Star Trek Discovery. And the way that works, since there's no wind in space, for those of you who are curious, it actually the solar sails pick up some sort of particles that come off of a star or a sun to push them up to as fast as warp speeds.
Oh, okay.
So that's how that works. That's all trivia-wise I have for this episode. What are your thoughts on it?
I did find this episode fairly interesting. You have obviously Tendi be like our
The Mistress of the Winter Constellations.
Mistress of the Winter Constellation. Yes. She discovers that her sister is pregnant, even though she is unwilling to tell her sister, even though she's told the entire crew that she is pregnant.
Oh, her parents probably know she's pregnant too.
Yeah, the only person she doesn't want to tell is Tendi.
Honestly, for the reason I actually appreciate, since De'Erica, who is Tendi's sister, because of the last two episodes of season 4, I did not have a high opinion of, because of how much she twisted and manipulated her sister into coming back into the family.
Oh, agreed.
And I think that was true even in... No, that was all in those last two episodes.
Yeah, it was.
Was when they introduced De'Erica. But the fact that by this point, De'Erica has realized that Tendi is miserable, even though she loves having her back, she doesn't want to tell her sister that she's going to have a child, because since she has a daughter, she's the one who will inherit Tendi's title, and then under Orion law, she would have to train that child for 14 years to replace her, which means by the time she would be done with that and could go back to Starfleet, she'd be too old.
Yeah.
And would not be able to probably go back at that point. So, or wouldn't be, it may be possible, but it wouldn't be very probable that it could work.
Right.
So I really do like the turn De'Erica took in this one, but still this feels like it was kind of forced, because they wanted to get much like Boimler's transfer to the Titan in season 2. This feels like we're going to do all this and then make sure we get her back in time, because we know she needs to be with everybody else. Because as much as I still like T'Lyn, that character is slowly being disappointing.
Yeah, agreed. Because they really haven't really done anything really with
No,
T'Lyn
they
yet.
haven't. They've had 2 seasons of her being a part of the Cerritos crew to do something with her.
Yeah.
And they really haven't. Granted, they introduced her back in season 2 and then had her show up in a couple other episodes, but she hasn't really gotten a chance to do much.
Yeah, agreed. It's like, and obviously be like you have the away team where they are trying to help this.
Okay, well, if we're going to get into the capitalists.
Yeah, the whole capitalism thing. And it's just
So,
like, really?
Here's the thing. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, did say before he passed away that in his mind there was no money in the Federation. As far as he was concerned, there was no money, period. Not digital currency, not hard currency. We had if you had got to that point in space travel, somehow you had evolved societally past the need for money. That doesn't change the fact that a lot of the writers did actually go and use terms that made it kind of obvious that they knew what money was, that that people did get paid. Poker still exists by this time, so I mean, unless you could probably do that by just having the chips not mean anything, but just have point values.
Yeah,
I can kind of make that work. But the biggest point in Star Trek where they actually come out, Grant, you've seen Star Trek 4.
Yes.
When Jillian asks, let me guess, you don't have money in the 23rd century, and Kirk says, well, we don't. Up until, I would say, Star Trek First Contact, that was the closest thing we had to an explanation of how money actually worked in Star Trek. And then in First Contact, when Picard is trying to get back to the bridge and he's having to keep Lillian, the 22nd century engineer that constructed the first warp-capable vessel, Phoenix. She asks at one point, after marveling at the size of the ship and how much material existed, how much did this thing cost, is what she says. And Picard, being an idealist, tries to influence her maybe in a way, I don't know, to not think of money. That he says the economy of the future is much different than it is now. We don't think of money money is no longer a driving force in our lives. He's being idealistic. Let's be honest. Notice that even in all that, he doesn't say money doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or if he does, it kind of really does. He acts like currency does still exist. It's just hard currency no longer exists. That's at least how I interpret it.
Or at least it's more of it's not the driving force.
It's not the driving force. It's not the main thing, because Starfleet and the Federation are a post-scarcity society. Almost everyone's, because of things like the replicator, everyone's basic needs are met.
Yeah.
It might still cost something, but it's going to be a relatively small amount. The only way there are still things out there that they have to physically mine out of the ground because they are not replicatable.
Yeah.
Like dilithium, the main power source of the warp drive system. They still have to mine that out of the ground. They cannot replicate it. They can refuse it now, but they can't replicate it. They can't just make however much they want. Mm-hmm. And there are other precious jewels that are the same way. So there is still some scarcity, but it's luxury items.
Yeah.
So basically how I interpret this, and this is once again a fan theory of mine, there is currency, there is Federation credits, because Federation credits are mentioned at 1 or 2 points in Star Trek. I had to double check it because when I hear Federation credits, I think of Republic credits from Phantom Menace.
Yes.
But Federation credits are a term and have been used, but they are used sparingly throughout the series because 99.99% of the time, the crew doesn't need to spend money on anything. Right. So it never comes up in the story.
Yeah, and also it's more of this ideal, like you said, Kirk has this idealistic view of things.
Picard does.
Picard has this idealistic view of things where people do things not out of the desire to get paid for something, but doing it out of the quote unquote goodness of their heart to do something for other people. Right. Where there's no, like, the driving factor is wealth and built of wealth, which I could see that, but
but there is still money, there's still currency, there is still a spending of things. It's just not something most people have to think about.
Yeah,
unlike our lives, where we do actually have to pay attention to how much money we have and how we're using it. So I actually do have a problem with how they show a new planet entering the Federation that was capitalistic and money was the main thing, and how now that they're in a post-scarcity society, then just going crazy and having parties and what did she say? Building museums where the banks used to be.
Yeah.
And shelters and all this other stuff, which sounds so much like how the politically left view this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And how it's like, we don't need any of that. We need all this other stuff. It's like, there is still a need for this. And granted, you don't need a physical place, but gold still has a purpose. It may not be as scarce as it was on Earth back in the nowadays in the Star Trek universe, but there is a reason why the Orion, that at the end of the episode, the House of Tendi does agree to take all of that stuff that place doesn't want anymore, because they need the all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
the treasure, the booty.
To me, with that scene, it's okay. We had a situation, now we instantly have it solved.
Right, and the thing is, for instance, right now I'm in the middle where I work. We are transitioning from one owner to another right now.
Right.
Not going to get any deeper into it than that, but
right.
There's a lot of, it takes a while for that sort of change to happen. You're telling me that overnight they're going to be able to move from a completely capitalistic infrastructure to no infrastructure, to whatever Star Trek uses.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen immediately.
No, of course. Like when you go to like a capitalist built system is more, it's based on, product and demand.
Yeah.
Be like you're building.
There's still supply and demand.
Yeah. You still have supply and demand. So the idea would be like, that is capitalism in its team, because you're making a product in order to serve someone else, to fulfill their need.
Now,
so it's a capitalistic view.
Now, if you want to say, hey, the replicator is making it to where we have taken power away from those who abuse the capitalistic system.
Yes.
I'm actually fine with that, because that is what probably actually happened. Because the elites, what they call it, the elite terrorists.
Yeah, the elite terrorists.
Who were trying to
terrorists.
cause all this issue. They were, and they're not even good at it because they're using their house cleaning robots as guards, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, because
especially Gardner's arrest.
Gardner's arrest.
Why didn't I water them?
Yeah, that was hysterical. It was slightly terrible. Oh my gosh, they killed a character. But they come back and bring those characters to life. But the whole notion of like, let's get rid of capitalism, and it comes on those heels of that, like, capitalism is evil because people make money off. Be like, if you're using
abuse of the capitalist system is wrong.
Yes,
don't get me wrong there. But capitalism in general, I don't see as being evil in and of itself.
No, it's
abuse of it is, but then abuse of anything is evil.
Yeah.
So
dictatorships?
Yeah. Socialism.
Yeah. Monarchism.
You get to communism, that's honestly, and the way communism was. First off, I'm not a communist. I don't think that system works.
It never worked.
But I would be willing to bet that all of the communist leaders of this world aren't really following what Karl Marx actually said.
They're capitalists.
They're very capitalistic in how they approach communism, because it's all very much just wanting power. And admittedly, that's the problem with most of the capitalists you see on here, even though that's played for comedic effect.
Yeah,
is they want all the power that they always had and don't want to
give it up.
Okay, fair, but capitalism itself is not evil, is what I'm trying to get at. Plus, even the evil capitalists of the Federation, being the Ferengi, who were designed to show what capitalism was at its worst.
Yeah.
Even they're not this bad as the way they make these people sound.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's more like this. The elitists, they're power hungry, and the shirts that Boimler and Mariner wear, it's like no money, this kind of stuff. It's like
that's not very practical.
That's not practical, and it's not really capitalism in itself.
If you want to tell me that in the Star Trek universe that money is so unimportant, most people don't even know how much money is in their accounts, that they probably don't even ever have to think about, I will believe that. But to tell me that there's no money at all, except in these fringe locations like the Ferengi and whatever other places are still using a currency, I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah. And also
that because there is still a way, you still have to be able to value things.
Yeah. And also the going back to where like Tendy's house, be like you think if these are cultures that have connections with Starfleet that have this not opportunistic, but this very this ultralistic view of capitalism, that it is evil, and that kind of harkens to our own day, that people believe that capitalism is evil. But like, it's like, yes, like Drew said, if you're looking at it strictly that the elite powers that be that have all the wealth and is unwilling to share or what have you, which they do share a lot of the money, and they do
even those who are doing it for their image. I mean, that's still helpful.
Yeah.
As much as I wish they would do it for different reasons. At least even that is still helpful.
Yeah. But it's
money should not be hoarded.
Yeah, exactly. Be like you should.
That's not, and that's not.
You should accumulate money.
That's not liberal of me to say either. That's the funny part, because money is worthless if it's not spent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just the nature of it. Money is not worthless. Money is worthless if it's not spent. So if, granted, you should be saving for rainy days. Don't get me wrong, but
not hoarding it.
Not hoarding it. Not spending it frivolously. Spending it on things that need it, such as actually going out and helping people.
Yeah.
Whether you do it for make yourself look good, or whether you do it out of the goodness of your heart.
Yeah.
Or whether you're a Christian doing it to the glory of God. Money's not meant to be held up in a bank account, just piling up into the trillions, sitting off on the stock market somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yes.
And that's what I think they get wrong about this episode, because there has been a growing with New Trek, there has been a growing feeling of importance to say that there is no money in the Federation, and I just can't see that as being real.
Yeah.
As being realistic.
Yeah, I to me, I harken back to Star Trek 4, where they're Kirk and crew are trying to figure out, be like, it's okay, we understand there's money. Be like, we
just don't know how much it is.
We don't know how much it's worth.
Yeah.
But we understand there is money.
Yeah.
Be like, we don't know what this 20th century value is, but we know it exists.
That's why I'm saying there's probably not physical cash. It's probably a digital credit that they are not, half the time they're not even aware of it actually moving between stuff, because quite frankly, how much energy does it cost to actually generate a steak in a replicator?
Right.
It probably doesn't cost that much energy. And that's really what I kind of base my thoughts on how the economy of the Star Trek universe is it's based on how much energy it takes to replicate something.
Right.
Granted, it probably doesn't take a whole lot, but at the same time, you get places like Cisco's dad's restaurant in New Orleans that is built on the idea of eating non-replicated cooked food. That's got to cost money, because he's not just doing that for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Nobody just works for the fun of it. You have to be getting something out of it, even if just because you have to feel like what you have done is of value.
Yeah.
Putting in a hard day's work is a good thing. Do not get me wrong, but doing it just because you have to do something for the day, that's not fun for anybody.
Yeah.
Doing it because it's valuable. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I can see where it'd be like if you're volunteering to do something to this or this or this, or like maybe you have a passion for it, but you've got, be like, at the end of the day, be like, you need to be.
But you don't give stuff away.
Yeah.
We're both artists.
Yeah.
Granted, you have actually done more commission work than I have. But you have to value your work at a certain level.
You do.
You can't sell it for too little, because then you devalue your artwork compared to everybody else's.
Agreed.
And it doesn't matter how, in many ways, while it should matter on the quality of the artwork, on how well it's liked, in many cases, it's how well the quality can I afford.
Yeah, agreed.
So you have, as much as me and you would just love to do art and just give it away and let anyone have it, we have to get paid for it, because we have stuff we have to take care of.
And also there's the idea
things
of
have to have value. You don't just...
Agreed.
why would anybody do 8 hours of work a day in a restaurant? As hard and grueling as working in a restaurant is, if you got nothing out of it besides working all day. Somebody still has to clean restrooms in the Federation. It may be a lot easier there then than it is now. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, because
there's got to be a janitor somewhere. If you've seen how much carpet is on the Enterprise D, it's all got to get vacuumed.
And also to point out
somebody's working.
Yeah, someone is working. They are getting paid in some capacity. If that's not physical or it's digital or something like that, in order to compensate them for their work. So if you expect someone to say hypothetically that you hired me to do something.
Yeah.
And I spent X many hours working on this, be like, there would be the expectation to be paid for that.
Yeah, continue.
So
I just thought of something to bring up
yeah,
later.
So it's just more, you've had this idea that you work an 8-hour shift, and how are you compensated for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the, be like, there again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you get a check at the end of the week,
right.
or you get like physical cash or a digital download to your account. But like some way or form, you are going to get paid for that.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, I did this out of the goodness of my heart. Be like, again, the heart is deceptive.
Yeah.
And man itself is greedy. So this idealistic idea of how bad capitalism is, be like, no, people don't want to get paid for things.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 5th century. You still want to get paid for what you do.
You still want your work to be valuable. And unfortunately, the only real way we have of discerning value is with a currency. I'm sorry. It may be digital, it may be physical, but that's the only way I know of anybody discerning value.
Yeah.
Granted, we do a podcast.
Yeah.
We do not really ask any of for our main show and for like this extra task that we're doing now, we are not asking you to pay us any money.
Yeah.
We are doing it for free for the good of, because we actually enjoy doing this.
Yeah, we enjoy
I know
doing this.
sometimes it may not sound like it, but we do actually enjoy watching these films and talking about them and releasing all this and all this stuff. And I would love to do it just for the fun of it, but the fact of the matter is, we have to pay our host, we have to pay the streaming company to stream, and we have to pay for the equipment that we are using, because all of this has a value. And so we have been giving away our shows at a loss, and that is the primary reason that we started the Patreon to do it, just to offset our costs to us, so that while we are still doing it and enjoying it for fun, we just want to offset our costs so that it doesn't cost us to do it as badly. That's the only reason why we ask for stuff.
Yeah.
And the only reason we do because think about how much work in a week do you do for the show?
Oh, probably a couple of hours.
Right. I put in a couple hours. Between the two of us and the show, we probably both do 20 hours of work a week.
Probably.
For the show. I am not saying that to complain. I'm just telling you how much work it takes to put out a show. And we do a lot of things to speed up time. It just takes time to do it, and we have to take time out of our schedules, and sometimes we have to actually go out and pay for movies.
Yeah.
Even if it's just rental. I'm not trying to turn this into a give us money speech. I'm just saying we do this primarily for the fun of it and for interacting with our audience.
Yes.
That's the primary reason we do it. And we just want stuff to do back. But the thing is, we had to place a value on this show. You can't tell me that this planet that they just freed from capitalists now has nothing of value anyone wants. You want to know how I know it? Because the House of Tendi just capitalized on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Capitalized, as in capitalism.
Exactly. I'm sorry. As much as this episode wants to say money does not exist in the Federation, it must. I'm sorry. It must.
Yeah, agreed.
It may not be something they have to deal with every day. It may be such an unimportant aspect of their lives that, much like Picard says, we work to better ourselves instead of chasing, the almighty dollar. But it still has to be there.
Yeah.
And capitalism by itself is not bad. Abuse of capitalism is.
Yes.
And I know what the anti-capitalists are going to say. You can't do capitalism unless you abuse it because the system rewards abuse. Well, unfortunately, that's true of every system out there.
Yeah.
We live in a fallen world. Someone's going to figure out how to game the system and abuse it. And even in the Federation, when you have replicators that can generate pretty much anything you want, you're still going to have a hairy mud out there.
Yeah.
You're still going to have people whose entire reason for being is trying to lord their elitism over you. Even in Star Trek, even when it's at its most idealistically Gene Roddenberry's humanist pure stuff, there's still people lording it over others.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have a show. But still, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and also the fact that like you have this idea of a utopia where people just get along to get along, and knowing us being Christians, but like you understand,
not impossible for humans.
It's impossible. But like, yeah, you can have a small group of people who are very like-minded that agree on probably 90% of things, but you're still going to have that 10% where they're going to disagree, and you're going to have disagreement and arguments, fights over things.
Yeah.
So that kind of breaks the idea of a utopia where everybody sings kumbaya and gets along. It won't happen. Because if you understand the human heart and the human condition, like we are sinful, we are broken, we are fallen, and we are going to do anything in order to gain what we want.
Yeah. So I think, once again, I should have played this ahead of time.
Rentmaster activated.
This audio clip owned by Nate Marchand of the Monster Island Film Vault. For more information, please go to monsterislandfilmvault.com.
So, yeah, that's probably going to be the end of it for us. Because, unless you got something else to add.
The only thing...
the only other... Sorry, you go ahead first. Go ahead.
The only thing I would add is like you have Boimler and Mariner who are trying to find the other. What are they?
The other ensigns.
Yeah,
because they're lieutenant junior grades now, so they've got subordinates.
Yeah, look for the subordinates and the idea that Boimler, who is trying to do the right thing, and then of course Mariner is like, "Oh, lighten up and go have fun," and they wind up getting in trouble. They wind up, quote unquote, getting dead, but they're not dead. They just get revived.
Yeah.
But it's a fun little bit. But the idea that we spent the last, couple of minutes or 30 minutes
complaining about the entire point of that section.
Yeah. The entire point of this entire episode of how capitalism is evil and it shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. I think we pointed out very well.
Admittedly, I think I enjoyed Tendy's part of this story much more better than I did everybody else's. We should talk about Rutherford and T'Len because even though not much happened there other than Rutherford and Tendy apparently were slowly working on this shuttlecraft and fixing it, and T'Len just goes and fixes everything, and it hurts Rutherford because... Oh, I didn't know if Tendy was even coming back, but I was trying to slow roll it so that when she did, we would still have it to work on. And yeah, if you don't think they're in love, you're not paying attention.
Right.
They are very much the couple in this. So
yes,
we're gonna have some half Orion cyborg kids running around at some point.
So the thing is, it's a Roddenberry something where. It's like, there are no arguments or no kind of like conflict in Starfleet anymore, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world.
Going into Next Generation, one of the things Roddenberry wanted, or one of the things he wrote into the Bible into the show's Bible is that there could not be intership conflict. All conflict had to be external.
Yeah,
he did not want any drama between crew members. Bear in mind, the second episode of Next Generation is the one where everyone gets a disease that makes them act drunk. And Yar and Data have fun, let's say.
Yeah.
So there's no drama on the Enterprise. But yeah, that was one of the things he said in that one, and that's like one of the first roles that broke when he was not there.
Yeah.
In fact, if you actually go back and read the history of season 1 of Next Generation, there was a lot of infighting between Roddenberry and everybody else trying to make the show.
Yeah, agreed.
Because Roddenberry's vision, why it definitely is his utopic vision of what the future is, and it's very extremely humanistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very humanistic utopia. It's not like good television, for one thing.
Right.
So you can't really preach to people on your vision if you can't get them to listen to you at all.
Yeah.
But that's
neither here or there.
That's neither here nor there. I don't watch the show for the humanism. I'm aware of it. I've been aware of the progressivism of Star Trek for years, and it's just that kind of thing I take with a grain of salt, and I take what truth is in the show, and there's actually a lot of truth in Star Trek from it without looking at the rest of the stuff, because as a Christian, I believe all truth, no matter where it comes from, is God's truth, because all truth comes from God.
Mm-hmm.
So there's truth. If there's truth in Star Trek, it's coming from God initially.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We've kind of ranted on anti-capitalists a bit.
Kind
the
like
rest of the show is
last episode we were on.
Yeah, it's good. This is a good episode. Besides that, everything else is good. I will say so far, I've actually watched the 3 episodes that are after this, and they are much better. So yeah, the next, even though the next episode, which is the best Nanite Hotel or something like that, and it's very much a Mariner forgot to break up with her ex.
Oh.
That's basically what the next episode we're going to review is about.
Gotcha.
I still think this was the weaker episode simply because of they harped on the anti-capitalism too much in this.
Uh-huh.
So join us next time for that one. The next Lower Decks review episode of it anyway. We will talk at y'all later. In the meantime, this has been Drew.
This is Jacob.
And we'll catch you in the next frame.
To follow Jacob and Drew's individual internet exploits, check out the Linktree links in the show notes. You can email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com, follow us on Twitter or X at @cast_cell, follow our Facebook page, The Cellcast Podcast, and join our Facebook group, The Cell Nation, our YouTube channel, Cellcast, and our Rumble channel, The Cellcast Gaming. You can join us every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central for our live recordings of our episodes on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also join Drew on those same streaming channels on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central for gaming streams. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else fine podcasts can be downloaded from. Please rate and review us where you found us. Our theme song is Drop and Roll by Silent Partner. Our bad movie theme is It's Party Time by Gregory Snegoff, with additional audio from the film Titanic: The Legend Goes On, and Remember, that's Cell with a single L.